Ladies and gentlemen, the fake news media outlet The New York Times has just been caught red-handed spreading dangerous propaganda that honestly could have put people's lives at risk. You see, yesterday afternoon, Elon Musk made a special visit to the Pentagon really just to shake some hands and take a couple photos. That being said, The New York Times just couldn't help themselves from taking the opportunity to spread their insane, radical propaganda. What they did is they ran a completely unverified, unsubstantiated story based on nothing, which alleged that Elon Musk was going to the Pentagon to get briefed about an upcoming war with China. And hey, if you don't believe me, take a look at this.
This started with this New York Times headline, and they since changed it, but Musk set to get access to top secret U.S. plan for potential war with China. This is egregious. This is fake. The New York Times should retract this story, 5 anonymous sources. I've been on bilat calls with the secretary. I see how hard he's working to implement the president's agenda and pursue peace through strength. This type of garbage from the New York Times undermines that process and undermines our mission. It shouldn't happen at all. Elon Musk is just coming over here for a visit. Again, he's an innovator. This is a guy that shot a rocket at thousands of miles an hour that's thousands of pounds. And as it landed back on the Earth, it was grabbed out of midair by a giant robot arm. We want a guy like Elon Musk in the Defense Department to help us come up with creative solutions to the problems that we face in the day. But this article is ridiculous. It's fake.
So folks, this entire situation with the New York Times is probably one of the most shameless and potentially harmful instances of fake news that we've ever seen. Now, President Trump himself actually weighed in on this entire New York Times fake news media dumpster fire. But before we take a look at that, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But okay, here's what President Trump had to say himself about this entire New York Times fake news story about Elon Musk and the upcoming war with China.
You know, you're talking about a potential war with China. Now, I deal with these people all the time, and I'm dealing with Pete. I'm dealing with these gentlemen on numerous different airplane purchases, and I think they're all going to be great. But I don't want other people anybody seeing potential war with China. We don't want to have a potential war with China, but I can tell you if we did, we're very well equipped to handle it. But I don't want to show that to anybody. But certainly you wouldn't show it to a businessman who is helping us so much. He's a great patriot. He's paying a big price for helping us cut costs, and he's doing a great job. He's finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. But I certainly wouldn't want, Elon has businesses in China, and he would be susceptible perhaps to that. But it was such a fake story. The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. And anybody read that story, people laughed at that story. Who would do such a thing? And the first thing I did is I called Susie and I called Pete. I said, is there any truth to that? And they said, it's ridiculous.
So folks, there you have it. The reality is the New York Times was once again just caught red-handed lying in a feeble attempt to bring attention back to their failing business. But you know what? Speaking of failing businesses, you just know that none other than Rachel Maddow over at MSNBC immediately jumped on this fake news story in an attempt to drum up some controversy. Take a look.
For some reason, they've decided to show Elon Musk this level of detail about a potential war with China while he operates the largest car factory, I believe, in China and has immense financial interest in that country and contacts with that country's government that he has not disclosed to the U.S. as part of maintaining his security clearance. I just got to get your reaction to that, sir.
Well, speechless would be the word. I don't know how to convey, I don't possess the language ability to convey how far out of the norm this is. Like nothing that people listening, like, look, this is those of us who served, the background checks from the FBI, just to receive clearance as an artillery enlisted soldier was extensive to get that background. And then the level of information that you can get, or as a member of Congress, to be able to have access to this type of information. These are closely guarded secrets because our national and our global defense depends upon them. And once again, we have this, I don't know, the character, the world's richest man with the world's most fragile ego. And I don't understand where the Republicans, where are Lindsey Grahams, where are these people who know how this works?
Tim Walz, ladies and gentlemen. I almost forgot how stupid that guy is. Notice how he not only had absolutely nothing of substance to say about all of this, but he also listed Lindsey Graham, of all people, as being one of the sensible Republicans. Folks, let's all take a moment to be appreciative that Tim Walz isn't our vice president right now, because we very recently just came a little bit too close to that being our reality. But anyway, folks, this entire situation is completely exemplary of how the left-wing mainstream fake news media has been operating for years now. In a never-ending effort to make President Trump look bad, they just invent stories out of thin air, putting our national security at risk. Then when their bullcrap gets debunked, they just move on to the next fake story. And notice how with every fake story they come up with, they always justify it by saying things like, well, we had anonymous sources from inside of the Pentagon, as if that actually means anything. Wait a minute, folks, hold on. I've got breaking news here right this very moment. Multiple anonymous sources are telling me right now that Rachel Maddow and Mark Cuban are actually the same person. You see, folks, talking about anonymous sources doesn't actually mean anything, especially when the anonymous sources always end up being wrong. But okay, folks, here's the reality. This sort of fake news propaganda is actually fundamentally dangerous and anti-American. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but the whole world is pretty much walking on eggshells right now. It seems like we're all sitting on a powder keg that could blow up at any moment. And so right now, in an attempt to de-escalate the entire world, President Trump is actively having peace talks with not just Russia, but also China as well. And so when the fake news New York Times runs a dangerous story like this, Elon Musk is being briefed on an upcoming war with China. It just undermines the global peace that President Trump is working towards, and frankly, it puts people's lives at risk. But folks, I'll tell you what, here's the silver lining in all of this. To me, it really does seem like people across the country just aren't falling for any of this fake news left-wing propaganda anymore. I don't know if it's because of the internet or if people have just been fooled one too many times, but really, it seems like no one is buying this stuff anymore. Every single day, the left-wing fake news media is slowly losing relevance, really quickly losing relevance, which honestly probably explains why their lies are increasingly becoming more and more grandiose. They're doing whatever they can to bring people's attention back to their failing news networks. But you know what? There's actually an old fable about this exact situation. It's called The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and we all know how that story turned out. But folks, on a final note, between you and me, I personally couldn't be happier that all of these left-wing media propaganda outlets are slowly going out of business. And they are. Now, folks, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below in the comment section and let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there if you like the video. As I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.